Finally tonight, an acclaimed coming-of-age novel based in part on the writer's own past. Jeffrey Brown has our book conversation.
In the early 1950s, a young boy sets out on a ship from his home in what was then called Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, bound for England. On board, he meets up with a lively cast of characters and has many adventures. It's just a 3-week trip, but one that will change his life forever. That's the fictional voyage of a new novel, The Cat's Table. Its author, Michael Ondaatje, took a trip like that long ago before becoming the much-honored writer of such works as The English Patient and Niels Ghost and Divisadero. He joins us now. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
So an 11-year-old boy named Michael makes this trip, as did 11-year-old...
You know, I mean, I had no idea the boy was going to be called Michael till about page 40, and suddenly that name appeared. I thought, should I go with that or not?
Oh, really? So it didn't start out that way?
No, I mean, I never usually know how the book's going to evolve before I write it. So I just began with a boy coming on this ship one night, and then he gets off the ship 21 days later on. And the actual journey I took, in fact, was, I don't remember it at all. It was like, I played a lot of ping pong and used the swimming pool a lot, but that was about it. And I had
but
friends.
Something compelled you to look back at that, whether it's autobiographical, I don't want to make it too autobiographical, but something, the material made you want to look back. No?
Well, what happened was, about a few years ago, I was talking to my children who are now grown up, and I said, I was put on this ship and there was no parental guidance, nothing, and they were appalled. And I said, actually, it is appalling.
It is. That's a different time, right? A young boy put on a boat by himself.
Right. So I thought, my God, that's a wonderful story here, and I'll just invent this adventure that takes place on this ship during that time. So even though I'm using a kind of element of memoir or seeming autobiography, all the characters in the story and all the adventures, in fact, are fictional.
Now, the cat's table refers to the table in the dining room that's the furthest from the captain's table, right?
Right.
One of the characters says this is the least privileged place. These are the least important people on board.
It's if you're at some big banquet and you're by the kitchens or something like that, you're sitting at the cat's table, and it's the insignificance. I think there's a lot of freedom in being unofficial. There's a lot of freedom in being not on stage all the time. So, you can be a heckler, you can kind of, and for a boy of 11 years old who's at this table, he's almost completely invisible, so he can go to places that others cannot go to. And so these 3 boys that get together are kind of having great adventures and, slipping into the butcher's room and into the jails and into all kinds of strange places.
Well, was there something freeing for you about having the character be a boy?
To write from the point of view of an 11-year-old boy was fantastic for me. That was an adventure as well, because you weren't judging people, you weren't kind of trying to work out what someone really felt. You just received information, and you were led, into kind of badness and goodness right away.
You're working here in one of the great realms of literature, the trip, right, and the characters along the way from the Canterbury Tales onward, right?
That's right, and I guess that's why you kind of. It's very important to populate the adventure with many people from different classes of society.
So how did that happen? Did you have this fully formed when you sat down, or did you literally make it up as you went along?
I made it up. I mean, all I had was the boy at the beginning, and then he has 3 friends, and then the fact that they're at the cat's table allowed me to think of a larger cast of characters, And so I have a jazz musician who's on the skids, and you've got this strange woman with pigeons who might work for Whitehall, and you've got a millionaire who's dying of rabies. All kinds of very strange things are happening. But it allowed me to invent these people. And what someone says to the boy, keep your ears and eyes open, because this is going to be a great education. And so the minute I said that, or had someone say that, then it became, in a way, a book about how, especially 11-year-olds, are easily educated in a bad way or a good way. So there's a thief who uses the boy to break into cabins, for instance. And he's happy to do this. It's an adventure for him.
The boy, as well as some of these characters that he meets, they are traveling from east to west. That is another part of the great literature, I think, that you're working in here.
Well, I mean, I'm someone who was, as I said, born in Sri Lanka and then moved to England and then moved to Canada. So I've been pretty nomadic in my life, and I've always been interested in how the East lives in the West. I mean, in The English Patient, it was Kip, the bomb disposal character. And in this book, it's these boys from Asia who really don't even know what England is, who are suddenly kind of about to arrive, and all their lives are going to change completely. And I just love that kind of, you know, transferring of people from one location to another one.
So when you finished, I guess, and I'm going back to where we started, you're looking back at a life that is sort of yours but not yours. Were you surprised by what you had written?
You know, it's very odd because I think when you write fiction, you are obviously kind of, you know, discovering elements of yourself, even if you're writing fiction, because even the kind of characters you invent are aspects of yourself or glimmers of aspects of yourself, and then you have to kind of, you know, you have to paint them in great detail. So the boy Michael, who I see as a fictional character, I'm sure contains elements of my fears or, you know, wishes, you know, I think all those things. When I wrote a book called Running in the Family, which was about my family in Sri Lanka, I would listen to all these stories from uncles and aunts, and I wrote this, you know, portrait of that time. And even though half of them were lying to me, I kind of believe all that stuff now. You know, fiction is very powerful in that way. It does replace fact sometimes.
All right, the book is The Cat's Table. Michael Ondaatje, nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Good to talk to you.